analysis tool. So now kind of put teacher hats down, and now this is more of how we drive school-wide decisions, and using this to develop teachers, using this to create better systems for kids. So when I'm looking at this, I have kind of 3 buckets that I can put that I can see my data through. One is students, one is staff, and one is interactions. So what I'm looking at right here is I have my averages, and this is for that first grade Bobcats group that we were looking at earlier. And I can see for this week, my average number of interactions is 33, my average positivity ratio is 86, average student balance is $75. For example, a way that this has been really useful, if I want to come and see students who struggled this week, for us, we would do this once a month of looking at monthly data, come and see which students had the lowest balance or the lowest positivity ratio, and start those students with like some not quite level 2 interventions, but put some interventions in place for those students and some strategies and kind of brainstorm as a grade level. Because then we're able to see this information really clearly. I can also look at this data over time and see how this has changed. So this is just positivity ratio this week. I can look at individual students, and all of this data I can manipulate however I want. I can look at a longer time period. I can break it down into weeks and months. I can look at just number of interactions. I think this is where I start to see schools really start to leverage this data in a meaningful way. So what I'm looking at right here is staff interactions. So what I can see here is number of interactions, positivity ratio, and this is for each teacher. And so again, for grade level team meetings, a lot of schools that I work with will start grade level team meetings here, be able to analyze data across their grade. And so the kind of conversations that come up here, right, are like, you know, I see that you logged 50 examples of disrespect and most of the other teachers logged 4. Like, can you kind of talk through what some of those looked like and like what you're defining as disrespect in your classroom? And it really helps with that norming process when you're approaching this as a team. So again, that can be looked at over time as well. And then I can see interactions here, and this is looking more at the behaviors themselves. So like, what are we tracking as a school? What are our corrective behaviors that we're seeing the most? And for this school, you know, bullying here is what they are seeing the most. And that can kind of guide what kind of development you're doing with teachers, what kind of conversations you're having with kids. So there's a lot of configuration that can be done in here, but questions or anything that you guys would want to see in addition to some of these pieces? Okay, cool. So those are kind of like the main highlights that I run through. Luz probably has like more AF like specific usage pieces. I've only had a few of those conversations, but any just like general questions, thoughts at this point, these are kind of the main features that I usually run through.
Do you have anything you could share about the weekly reports that go home and then like the paycheck option?
Yeah, so that's kind of an interesting, like more of a preference at this point, because we have schools that are like very parent portal heavy, who don't send home printed reports. And then we have some schools who still choose to send home paper reports. And so I'll show you what one of those looks like. So basically, so I'm going to create a new report and just kind of show you what some of these pieces can look like. So you have a lot of configuration pieces that you can add here. These are all just kind of like how you want to set up an automated PDF that you would want to print. You can do like an actual paycheck. You can choose like a behavior list, all of these pieces, just to kind of show you what a sample one might look like. So it'll break it down into sections. So here I see like summary by day. I can see that paycheck, behavior list, consequence list, and then any school news. So like when I was teaching, this is what we would send home every Friday. They had to bring it back signed on Monday, where we would give them an automatic $20 for a parent signature. Nowadays, a lot of our schools will just do the parent portal and just do a big push to get as many parents onboarded on that piece. So I think it's really just kind of preference for each school. Great question.
I will also add to this, there is an option to auto deposit on a weekly basis. I know a lot of our schools do an auto deposit of like $100 scholar dollars on a weekly basis, or you can also make auto deposits on a daily or monthly basis.
Yeah. Cool. Okay, guys. I will get this recording out, but any final questions? Okay, cool.
Can I just ask, how are y'all feeling about the use of Kickboard this year? What are your thoughts in terms of the direction that you'll take this year versus previous years, or just any general thoughts?
For me, I think it's like really good, especially with positivity. I think it's just a big aspect, especially because it keeps parents updated. I do have a question. Can parents like set up notifications when teachers provide like, I guess, behaviors, or is it they have to log in themselves to see like a notification for what behaviors happen?
Yeah, so the only time that they'll receive a notification is when there's a message being sent. Otherwise, they'll have to log in and see that information.
Yeah, Liz, we're really excited. We like a lot of the features here. It looks like it would be a good way to communicate with families and to reward scholars and keep the positivity going and keep track of the positivity. Be able to have step backs and look at the data. And then, so I guess we need to talk more about like how we will use what we already have in place at Endeavor to see how we can like transfer it over. I guess we were thinking about this just because of the idea of being remote. We had like physical trackers and like clipboards and things like that we were using, and then like binders that went home to families. And so now we're trying to find a better remote way to communicate with families. And so I think that this is, we're in the right direction here. So we have to talk more about it.
Yeah, that's great. Somebody asked a question in the chat about leveraging Kickboard remotely. One of the things that you might consider doing just to ensure that you're communicating with families on a regular basis and that they're actually taking some time throughout the week to look at the portal is maybe consider sending messages on a weekly basis, and even asking parents to report any positive behaviors that their child is exhibiting at home, and then have teachers record that. So once a week they should have some behavior input into Kickboard based on family feedback. That's one thought.
I got one more question. So I am the owner of Kickboard for our school, and I just want to kind of make sure I understand correctly. When we're creating triggers, would I be creating triggers or would I be reaching out to network?
Yeah. So you would be reaching out to us. We've just had a lot of schools that like totally just went off the deep end by like just like missing one thing on a trigger and like just had needed to tweak it a little bit, but it like, you know, might flag like 100 students for lunch detention because they put it in wrong or something. So that's the only thing that you would need to come to us for, and we'll set up for you.
And I'm also going to drop a link here to our internal documentation at AF. It's got links for all of your beginning of your setup questions. I'll just send it to everyone. So this talks about how to set up your behaviors and how to request those consequence triggers, as well as how to set up those automated behaviors that are syncing from Infinite Campus, the attendance, suspensions, and homework, as well as how to set up your groups. It sort of has everything that you need to know for beginning of your setup. And it also has a couple of videos and docs for family that are family facing, that are specifically related to the family portal. So feel free to use those as you're communicating with families. Just keep in mind that families cannot actually access this link. So you'll want to share direct links if you're using any of the family facing material that's posted here. And reach out to me if you have any questions as you go through setup stuff.